Hello and welcome to another episode of The Brothers Discuss. I am Alex.
And I'm Chris.
All right, so Chris, we've got quite a bit to talk about. So let's start with the Academy Awards, the Oscars. Um, so I'd only watched one other award show this award season, and I don't know about you, but I'm always interested in award season. I get a little bit invested, and it's not because I'm necessarily rooting for things to win or whatever. I always find it a fascinating time of year. Like, I think the Oscars in particular are an interesting way to look back on a year in film and can be a good time capsule for what was popular, what was considered popular at the time. And it doesn't always continue. Yeah, you look back on past Oscars and go like, Jesus Christ, that movie was nominated for Best Picture. Like, I've not heard about it ever since. Then you look back and go like, well, why wasn't this, and this nominated? And people still talk about these 20 years later. And I just find that fascinating. And I only watched the Oscars and the SAG Awards this year because the SAG Awards were on YouTube. And I don't mean illegally. I mean, they're in full on Netflix's YouTube channel because Netflix bought the broadcast rights, if you can call them that. Like, nobody wanted the SAG Awards. TNT said nope, and here we are. And did you watch the SAG Awards?
No, yeah, I only tuned in for the Oscars, and I'm kind of the same way. Like, I get pretty excited for like the award season and all of that, but really the only one that like I actually watch is the Oscars. So,
Yeah, the SAG Awards are kind of like look, I respect actors and everything. It's a little, I don't know, like the people with some of the highest paid jobs in the world going on stage crying about how happy they are to be actors is always a little bleh to me. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, like when the Oscars happen, that is still there, but at least you have other parts of the industry, like other art films, if you will, within filmmaking, get some screen time. And this Oscars, I don't know about you, this Oscars was better than the last two at least. I don't think Jimmy Kimmel is necessarily a great host for an award show like this, but I do think that they cut out a lot of the crap that was really annoying about last year's ceremony. And
yeah.
obviously they had all the awards part of the show again, which is a big plus. Like, that should never have been removed in the first place. But a lot of the silly segments weren't there, which was nice. I mean, you still had people come out and say silly things like you had Elizabeth Banks and a man in a bear costume go on way too long. That was annoying.
Yeah.
Or Emily Blunt not caring about animation and The Rock just really wants to talk about it. Like, that was weird. But what do you think of this year's Oscars?
I'm kind of the same way. Jimmy Kimmel, like, I think he's actually kind of a decent host. I'm like not the greatest that's done the Oscars, but um, I also appreciated the Will Smith jokes that he made as well. Those were good. But yeah, I'm glad that it should never have happened, like cutting out awards for the Oscars. That's so stupid and very like disrespectful to the people that like got those awards.
Right.
Um, but yeah, this one was definitely just down to earth for the most part, outside of like those instances where they just keep going and going. But um, and the speeches too were actually like really good this
Yeah.
year, especially Ki Kwan is a very standout one for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, there were lots of feel-good wins, I would say. It did go over as predicted, but like I said, lots of feel-good wins, and you had two movies basically winning all the awards. So
Yeah.
it's funny to think that Everything Everywhere All at Once came out like almost a year ago now. Like, I saw it in April last year, and it's often the thing with the Oscars. Like, there's recency bias. That's not unique to the Oscars or to award shows. It's just what happens. But
Mhm.
it's cool that a film that's so different and weird and unique was actually embraced by the Hollywood elites. Like, that was very fun to see. And I like the Daniels a lot, and I was happy to see them win.
Yeah.
I mean, plenty of movies were snubbed, and it's crazy to think that
A
Nope
lot of movies
or
were snubbed.
yeah, but it's crazy to think that Nope or The Menu or Decision to Leave or The Northman like didn't receive anything. None of them received any nominations, let alone awards. Again, in most categories, only 5 films can be nominated. So maybe we should just go back to that, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe don't nominate Avatar 2 for Best Picture. Would be a start.
Right. Well, like I've said elsewhere that there are always more than 5 or 10 great films every year. So how you
Sure.
narrow it down to it is a popularity contest. It's the definition of a popularity contest. So there's no way to fix it. It is what it is. Like only 10 films. So if you have 10 worthy nominees, and that's a good thing. But there's always a couple where you go like, really, that film snuck through. Again, people in Hollywood, people who are paid in that industry, have a different view of films than people like you and I. But yeah, I guess with like the popular movies, like the movies that everyone goes out to see, like does that it leads to an interesting discussion, like the film that everyone saw, does that not automatically qualify it as a best picture? But if that's the case, anything could be best picture. Like it doesn't matter the quality, in which case that doesn't make it the best picture.
Yeah, the Best Picture is kind of like an interesting subject for that, especially this year, because I checked out all of the nominees this year, and it was like really, really weird, like how different, like not obviously, yeah, they're all different movies, but like just how uh, different they were received, because you have like really, really big movies like Top Gun and Avatar and like Elvis that are like getting nominated. Then you have stuff like Women Talking and Triangle of Sadness, which I don't think. Oh wait, Women Talking won an award, but that was yeah. But for the most part, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Which I actually have to bring something up. So I didn't watch the Oscars live.
Oh,
Uh, I was working the night it was happening, so I had to like just kind of just look up and see what was winning like during my shift, and then I went back the next day and actually just watched all of it. But I kind of got like exhausted after like reading Everything Everywhere All at Once, Everything Everywhere All at Once, like over and over again. Like I love the movie, but when I don't know something about like Oscar steals like that, it just it kind of bums you out when like you see other things and you're like, yeah, that kind of deserves some like love too, you know?
yeah. I mean, something like Avatar, Top Gun, Maverick. I mean, they have the benefit of not being comic book franchises, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at the Batman, which you would say is as good as either of those. I think most people would say. Or if you want to talk about money making, obviously Avengers Endgame or Spider-Man No Way Home are these big juggernaut films, but none of them got Best Picture recognition. I mean, the whole reason allegedly that we now have 10 Best Picture nominees is because The Dark Knight missed out on a Best Picture nomination back in 2009 when it had more nominations in various categories than some of the Best Picture nominees. So how can you be so great in all these other categories and not be one of the 5 Best Picture nominees? Like that's part of why we're at that point. And when we first went to 10 nominees, we had films like District 9 nominated, for example. And it's like, District 9? Really? That got a nomination for Best Picture? It was super weird. And Avatar, that was another one.
Yeah.
You think of Roger Deakins' comment about how the Batman should have won for Best Cinematography.
Well, I mean, it's not wrong. I forget what was it. All Quiet that won Best Cinematography?
I think it was, yeah.
Okay, I mean, it was still really good in there, but I would have preferred Batman.
Well, if anyone would know, it's him. I mean, the voting body of these awards are cinematographers, for the Best Cinematography Award. So, yeah, he would talk to other people in his field, and the person who was the DP on the Batman won the Oscar last year. So, like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
And I did my predictions, and I tried to base it on what I predicted would win, not what I would vote for, and I did poorly. In a couple of cases, I didn't know what the documentaries were about this year, and when you see the shorts and go, "Oh, I picked wrong," like that's gonna win. Like things like that happen. But then there are some other pleasant surprises, like the song from RRR one, which was nice to see.
Mhm.
I don't think there were too many things that were super surprising. Like there wasn't like a like what? Who the hell voted for that? kind of thing.
Yeah, something really interesting happened because I mean I made like a few predictions. I don't remember um, like what most of them were outside of like the actors and Best Picture, but
Hmm.
uh, when the visual effects came up, obviously I knew Avatar was going to win that. Like that's just how it is. When your movie's a computer, it's going to win visual effects. And then when it cycled through all the movies nominated for visual effects, I'm like, wow, all of them look so much better than Avatar. Like seriously, all of them looked like just so much better and just so much cleaner. And like, I don't know, it's very interesting. Because obviously, like a movie like Avatar would win that, but man. But as far as my predictions go, I got like completely like destroyed. Um, because best actor, like the best actor, best performances, I don't think I got any of them right.
Oh, really?
No, I think I was going like I was on the fence about Brendan Fraser, but other than that, I didn't have, especially Jamie Lee Curtis. I did not think she was going to win that at all. But um, and I actually didn't think Everything Everywhere All at Once was going to win Best Picture. Just because whenever you have the Oscars, it's kind of like a David and Goliath situation where it's like most of the time, not all the time, as clearly shown, but most of the time, like the underdog kind of gets the best picture.
Hmm.
Um, and so I seriously wasn't expecting it to, but yeah, it was very interesting, very surprising.
Yeah. All right. Well, we saw some movies. So we watched Creed 3 or Rocky 9, however you want to look at it.
It ain't Rocky 9
Um,
anymore.
that is true. So I thought it was a very, very good movie. Um,
Yeah, I'm in the same
I
boat. Yeah.
Yeah, I rewatched the first two beforehand because I'd only seen the second film once, and I liked it. But then when it like, came time for this film, I thought I remember the first one vividly. Like I remember the structure of that film quite clearly. Like the second one, I couldn't as much. I knew
Mhm.
that Drago Jr. was the villain. And I didn't really remember much else about it, so I watched it, and there comes a point where halfway through the film, Creed fights Drago, and I was like, Jesus, this is happening earlier in the film because I at least remember the climax of the film, and I was like, oh right, it kind of mirrors some of the other Rocky films. Like he's got to lose for the real fight at the end. But the second one is a very good film. I thought the third one, which is super refreshing, on top of being a good film. Michael B. Jordan was the director, and it was just interesting to see how someone makes their directorial debut with a film like this, and
Mhm.
hearing him talk about how the boxing sequences weren't difficult to film. It was the more kind of two people in a room talking scenes that were more difficult because how else do you make that creative? Like, whereas he got very creative with the boxing sequences to the point where I was expecting a lot of people to not like that as much because the
I
Rocky
was
film,
too. Yeah.
yeah, the Rocky films, like though they are over the top in terms of this, if this were the real world, Rocky in the first film probably would have lost the fight much earlier and things like that. Like they're still quite grounded, whereas he doesn't stick to that in the fight scenes in this or the boxing matches. And I don't really want to go into it too much detail because I'd like people to go see it, so I won't spoil things here. But yeah, I thought it was a very good film. I like the story that Adonis Creed went on in this. Again, 9 films. How do you tell a different story? And like you alluded to, Rocky Balboa isn't in it, and his presence
Mhm.
is missed. Admittedly, like Creed's trainer is Duke Jr., who is Apollo Creed's trainer's son, and that actor is very good and everything, but the character doesn't have a lot of presence, whereas Rocky is all character. So I definitely missed that a little bit. This
Sure.
was a film where having someone wise talking to him would have helped him character wise, but you could say it's good in a sense where he didn't have Rocky in the film because it forced Creed to deal with things in a different way. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a moment in the second film I don't love where, in frustration, Creed screams into the air and cries, and his baby daughter is there, and he picks her up and carries her and says, "Daddy's just being a bitch," or something like that. And I remember at the time thinking, You don't have to say that. The Rocky films are emotional films. They're not just sports movies. They're kind of a love story and things like that. But you
Hmm.
don't have to do that. And then in this one, it kind of takes that closed off attitude, the we don't talk about our feelings type of attitude, and makes that a character flaw in Adonis that he has to battle and overcome. So I like that aspect of the film, and Michael B. Jordan was great. And Tessa Thompson's very good in all three of these films, although she has a lot less to do in this one. And yeah, very good film.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've seen it twice now already, so
Ooh.
yeah, and both times was really great. I recommend anyone trying to see it. I don't know if you can, just because there's a lot of new movies coming out, but if you can, try to see this in IMAX because the fight sequences are filmed in IMAX, and it is really, really neat looking at the sequences that way because, all I'll say is that the fight sequences are definitely more stylistic than they've ever been for a Rocky movie,
Yeah.
and it really pays off when you get it all on the big screen. So. But yeah, I pretty much agree with all that. Like, really great performances. I like the direction for the story, and it was really neat seeing Michael B. Jordan. Like, this is a really really big movie for like a directorial debut.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I'm really more so than anything, I'm excited to see like what he has in store for the future. Maybe not
Yeah,
necessarily
same.
just for the Creed franchise, just him directing in general. Because I guess Creed's a cinematic universe now. But yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Actually, like you, I'm very interested to see what he directs next outside this franchise. I would want to see what he does with something completely different. Like I know he's been in some action films recently that I haven't really gone on my way to see, so I can't comment if they're good or bad. But I'm just interested to see what he does next because he's a very good actor, and I would like to see what he bring creatively as a filmmaker. And we
Mhm.
haven't even talked about Jonathan Majors yet.
Oh my God. He was
Yeah, he's
great.
great in this. But it feels like he's a star that just popped out of nowhere. Like, and it's weird because he's younger than Michael B. Jordan, and his character is older than Adonis. Like, there's a
Yeah.
point in the film where Creed is semi-retired in the movie, and when he's training, they kind of say, it's going to be hard for you, you old man. And you look at him and you go, Michael B. Jordan is not an old man. But in the sports world, with someone in their late 30s is pushing it, so it actually makes sense.
Mhm.
But Jonathan Majors, he's obviously a fresh face in terms of someone starring in big movies, but he has been around for a little while now, like Last Black Man in San Francisco and Da 5 Bloods. Like I've seen him in other things, and I know he's been in some television stuff that I haven't seen, but he does feel like a fresh face here. And he and Michael B. Jordan talk about wanting to be like De Niro and Pacino, like these actors that will appear in films together multiple times over the years. I'm all for that because they've got good chemistry together. So
Oh yeah, for
that'd be
sure.
cool. It's just weird to say that after you've been in one movie together, but yeah.
Yeah. No, he was really great in this.
Mm.
Yeah, not much else to really say, I guess, but
It's just impressive that we're only in March and he's already been in like two like number one box office movies
I
back
know.
to back basically, and that's
Awesome.
impressive.
Yeah.
Um, I guess before we get into we will talk about Shazam later on, but before we get into that, we should get into the news that dropped about a week ago, where we got the confirmation that James Gunn will be directing Superman Legacies, which is still scheduled to be released on July 25th, 2025, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. Um, so what do you think of this news?
I'm really stoked for this actually. Because well, you know how like Superman's been lately.
Mm.
In like the past 10 years, and I'm like really really itching for that like return to kind of campy but like really thoughtful kind of Superman, but like, in modern day.
Mm.
I haven't seen Superman Returns. I don't really want to, but and like Superman in the past 10 years has been like, so it's um I'm really curious, and like James Gunn, like I completely trust him writing it and even more so directing. So it's I'm really, really excited to see what he has in store for Superman.
So I actually never thought that he was going to direct this. Like I knew that he was writing it, but I figured as like a producer and someone who's like overseeing so much that he might have the time to direct a movie of that scale. Like I thought he would direct one of these things, but I didn't expect him to direct what is essentially going to be the first really big film that they're going to do.
Hmm.
But I don't know. It's kind of a weird choice because I can't really picture a James Gunn Superman film. And we're going to talk about Shazam later on, but it kind of made me wonder, like, has he seen some of these other films and thought, like, I'll do it myself or something like that? Is it that kind of reaction? Because if that's the case, that kind of worries me a little bit. Like, I would like to see some more, like, some other filmmakers get the opportunity to come along with a style or different vision or creative energy. Like, I've
Right.
seen his creative energy already. It's kind of what makes me go, oh, just give that to someone else. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, obviously, it's not because he's a bad director. That's definitely not my worry. But I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on this.
It kind of makes you curious, like how often he's going to do it in the future,
Mhm.
or he's just going to say,
There
"I'll
is
just do this one."
the joke online where it's like, well, James Gunn hires himself to direct Superman going around. But
Yeah.
I guess another bit of news: Ben Affleck has recently come out and said that he has no interest in like working with James Gunn on a project. Or he basically said something to the effect of like I'm sure he's a nice guy, but these movies are not going to be like for me or something like that. To that effect, you're a nice guy. You're a nice guy.
We are
Like with
done
someone,
professionally.
like when someone does that whole like he's a nice fella, but I just don't want to work for him or whatever. It's such a backhanded like. To me, there's a better way of saying it. Like James Gunn, like like James Gunn has his vision. It's not quite something that I fit with. So best of luck. Instead,
Yeah.
it's like I'm sure he's a nice guy. It's that kind of thing which is just weird. I don't know. Ben Affleck is directing a movie about a shoe, so I don't know if he's the same director that made Argo anymore.
Yeah.
But it gets me worried that this is starting to turn into like the MCU, this DC stuff, where instead of like allowing creatives to be creative, like James Gunn obviously has to oversee everything, but is it going to detract from the director's vision? That's like to me like the whole DC Elseworlds thing was kind of encouraging because it's like it's not going to be that. I thought that was the point of it. And look, just to be totally clear, I was joking about Ben Affleck making a movie about a shoe. That could be a great movie. I don't know. It could be an interesting story. Like Affleck, like not working with someone else's vision in mind is kind of what stopped his own Batman movie from happening. Like, I mean, his idea from what we've heard was almost like more like a Bond film, which I gotta say is an interesting idea for a Batman movie. Like, I kind of
Yeah.
would like to see that at some point because we get a little hints of that in The Dark Knight, at least in terms of an international thing happening. Like, I've often thought that feels a little more like a Bond film. Like he has to secretly go to another place and work for people he wouldn't normally work with and things like that. That's very Bond. But, I am happy that we have Matt Reeves Batman right now, as
Yeah.
well as the Penguin show that is currently shooting right now. And my goodness, it is like Christmas for us right now because every day we get like new set photos of Colin Farrell. Like, just
That's great. I
like
didn't know it was filming right now. That's awesome.
it is, yeah. Like we love we love the Penguin and those photos of him. I'll have to show you a picture. Like there's photos of him drinking a slush puppy. Like that's what I took away from these photos. Like I can't wait to see the Penguin drink a slush puppy.
That's great.
Colin Farrell can do no wrong.
Yeah.
And Colin Farrell did not win the Oscar. And I mean, I'm very happy for Brendan Fraser, but I was hoping Farrell was going to win because I
I
remember,
was expecting him to, honestly. Him and Brendan
yeah,
Gleeson.
I I just remember forever that he was in that penguin suit the day before shooting that show. So before shooting the Oscars, like I just think that would have been fun if he was just in the penguin makeup at the Oscars. But he was very happy to see that donkey. That wasn't actually the donkey.
I was just about to bring it up, yeah.
But he was just happy to see a donkey, I guess.
It's okay because that part was great in the movie.
Now, here's a question for you. Should Jamie Lee Curtis have won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar?
um, I don't know. My knee-jerk reaction is that's kind of weird that she did.
I
Um,
know.
more so on the fact that I forget the actress's name, but the daughter in Everything Everywhere All at Once, she was also nominated, and I thought she was better than Jamie Lee Curtis in the movie.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
So
Okay.
very interesting.
Yeah. So, it looks like we're at the main event time right now. Let's talk about 65.
You're the only person that's seen it.
Apparently, because it's the new Adam Driver sci-fi movie that no one has seen and nobody likes. But I liked it. So, okay. I really wish the trailers for 65 didn't straight up tell you that he's in like prehistoric Earth. Like, I wish it didn't do that because I think it would have been interesting if like, I mean, there's just so much hand holding in the movie in terms of like, look at all these galaxies, look at these planets. Here's one that's not like our own. Like, here's Earth 65 million years ago. Like, it's like Terminator Genesis. Like, the twist is like he's also a Terminator. Let's put that in the trailer. It's stupid. Um,
Mhm.
but I really wish they trusted the audience to be a little smarter and work this out for themselves. Like, I thought the movie was fun. I enjoyed watching it. Like, there were some nice jump scares. I thought the dinosaurs were pretty scary and creepy at times. And Adam Driver, like, he's such a good actor that he carries it really well. But
Mhm.
I can't confirm this myself. I don't know for sure. But there's word out there that this film was still doing test screenings the week of its release.
Oh, really?
Like, maybe that's what we got. Maybe we've all seen a different version of the film and none of us liked it enough to really talk about it scene to scene. Like, there are bits in the trailer that is not in the movie, and that's normal. But for instance, where it's like, how did they get around using that? Like, he was in a different position on the ship when it started going down, when it was hit by an asteroid. And because it was hit by an asteroid that was CG, that could have been something that they decided later on anyway. Like,
Mhm.
that stuff was a little frustrating, but in terms of sitting there and watching a character movie about a guy who is at point A, he has to get to point B, and there's something dangerous in the middle, I thought it was a totally fine and enjoyable movie. Like, it's not overly complicated. It's very simple. It kind of feels like a film that would have come out in the 80s. Like, it almost feels like a movie that would appear on Best of the Worst, maybe. But
Yeah.
so there's a ticking clock element about the meteor that wipes out the dinosaurs. And I think I would have liked that more if I didn't know the twist, where you can kind of pat yourself on the back for thinking, oh, I wonder if they're on Earth. Like, I wonder if this is the meteor that causes the mass extinction. Like, I probably would have appreciated more. So I guess I kind of spoiled the movie, but the trailer spoiled it, so who cares? You know, but sometimes it's okay for a movie to be exactly what you expect it to be. That's not always the worst thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're at the actual main event. We're here to talk about Shazam: Fury of the Gods. It is the sequel to 2019's Shazam, directed by David F. Sandberg. So I guess we should just lay out some quick context. What do you think of the first Shazam movie?
The first, and I rewatched it right before I saw
Hmm,
Shazam 2,
as did
and
I.
it is very like quaint and thoughtful and very simple. So my reaction to Shazam 2, I guess I'll just go ahead and say it. Like I think like the movie's crap, but like I kind of love that it's crap. Like it does fall into the trap of we got to go, 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 go. Like we can't stop. We have to keep going, keep going.
Mm,
It kind of made me think of like the Rise of Skywalker in that way, where it's just like we can't stop. We have to keep going. But I wasn't like as frustrated or distracted by it because the characters themselves and their dialogue, most of all, was just still fun and entertaining,
mm.
just like it was in the first film. So. I honestly, I think we're going to differ a little bit here, but I wasn't bothered by this movie too much. with the exception of one really, really big thing at the end. But
Okay, we'll get to that.
yes.
So I think the last episode I implied that I didn't like the first film or something like that. That's not how I feel. I actually really like the first Shazam. I think just at the time it kind of came out, similar to Dark Phoenix. It came out like the same time as the biggest movie of the world at the time, Avengers Endgame. And Endgame was such a big, fun event that the quaintness of Shazam at the time maybe felt a little dated. Maybe just didn't connect with me as much as it did then. But I definitely enjoyed it. And in hindsight, especially, I think that's a very fun movie. I'm not getting ahead of myself yet, but there's something about a guy who's kind of an idiot trying to be a superhero that is very endearing. And they handle that stuff very well in the first one.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about Fury of the Gods. So I think the general consensus with everyone is whether people liked it or not, they seem to agree that they don't like it as much as the first one.
Yeah.
And a few films that this reminded me of in some ways, it was Thor: The Dark World and Thor: Ragnarok. It simultaneously reminded me of like Thor: The Dark World. We get more Asgard stuff, and I like the Asgard stuff, but it's not particularly interesting, I guess. The history of Asgard, I don't find that stuff fun. I just like that as a change to Earth, where all the other Marvel films take place, I guess. And Zachary Levi is in it, so there you go.
Yeah.
But it also reminded me of Thor: Ragnarok. The first Shazam is funny. It's also kind of a comedy, don't get me wrong. But this one has barely a second to go by without a joke. And unfortunately, I found the movie kind of irritating in that sense, where there came a point where I was just kind of like, oh, God, I need a minute. There's just so much happening. And there's also comedy bits that feel very forced. I really like the actor that plays the wizard, but there's a point where Freddie and Anne, is that what we call Rachel Zegler's character?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where I guess she's making up with him and talking about how, because she's freed them from the pit or whatever, and she's talking about how I didn't need your help with the bullies. I was dreaming of killing them myself or something. And we see in the background the wizard doing the exaggerated nod, like, yeah, we know the type of thing. And I was like, oh, God, why is that character doing that? And there's a lot of callbacks to jokes that were never really that funny to begin with. That's just a lot of settle down, bring it down a notch. And I think the most glaring part of that is that Zachary Levi plays Shazam completely different to the way I'm forgetting his name now. The actor that plays Billy,
Yeah.
Asher Angel. Those two guys are playing completely different characters.
Well, one of them is hardly in it to start off.
That is true. That is true. He gets second billing, and I was thinking, he probably filmed all his scenes in a day.
Yeah.
He did so little, and maybe there's more that was deleted or something. I don't know, because this also felt kind of long for a Shazam movie, which is another problem of fitting so much in there. There's so much happening, and the movie is long, even though it's technically shorter than the first one by 2 minutes. But the difference
really?
is that I didn't feel that with the first one. To me, the first one feels like a 70 or 80-minute movie in my mind.
Yeah.
But this one just drags.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. I wasn't too a movie that this actually made me think of, and maybe it's just because it just came out, but it was hard not to think about Quantumania while watching this one, and
I was gonna bring that up.
it's interesting that you talk about you being irritated with this. It's your semi praises and my criticisms for Quantumania are kind of inverted right now for this movie. Because I was very irritated throughout Quantumania with the dialogue and the characters and just everything that was happening. And this maybe it's just I thought the movie just felt so much more alive. Even if pacing wise it's just kind of just go 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 go, and characters are kind of a little bit all over the place. But I still I still managed to just have like a really, really fun time with this one. A lot more so than I did with Quantumania. Quantumania was like a funeral. Like I just had to. It was so hard to get through for me, and so I don't know. It's very interesting now.
So yeah, like I was literally just about to say that Quantumania was another film that this reminded me of. Like in that, the first Ant-Man, the family drama stuff is really, really strong, and the comedy was stronger as well. And
Mhm.
then you get to Quantumania, and the family stuff is all still there, but it's nowhere near as good or interesting or what have you. And that's kind of how I felt about this one. But for the record, I did think Quantumania was a tighter film than this one, personally. There's a point where unicorns are introduced, and we see our characters riding on them for 5 seconds, and the youngest of the family, like earlier, she doesn't understand that Mary Marvel was hungover. Like, she thinks she went to the eye doctor because she's wearing sunglasses indoors. But then when she's riding a unicorn, she yells, "Taste the rainbow, motherfucker!" Like, is she like an innocent, clueless little girl, or what? Like, I don't know. That stuff and like the Skittles product placement reminded me of like the Power Rangers movie with Krispy Kreme. Like, that was really gross product placement. It's like, okay, we get it. Like, I don't know. It didn't work for me.
Um, it was actually funny because I was going to bring that point up because that reminded me of a specific moment in Quantumania.
Okay.
So, um, for very different reasons. So, yeah, there was the Skittles like taste the rainbow moment with the unicorns. And maybe it's just the fact that like the movie is so ridiculous and kind of all over the place. Like it didn't really like bother me that there was product placement there. I was like, yeah, it's probably what would happen in this universe. But it reminded me, and I was like, man, I would pick our main characters riding unicorns that they tamed with Skittles over ants that just kind of show up and are super intelligent and just kind of clean house and save the day any freaking day of the week. Like, it just, again, like maybe it's just the, I don't know, like, I think it's just David F. Sandberg. I think like that's the main thing for me is that, um, particularly with the first Shazam movie, is like that movie was very quaint and very thought-provoking, more so than I thought the Ant-Man movies were. Um, so I don't know. Maybe there's a stylistic element going on, but I enjoy it. I'm not saying this movie is perfect by any means.
Mm.
Like I said, I think it's crap, but I kind of love that it's crap. So yeah, that's my piece.
Yeah, there's a huge body count in this movie. When you really think about it. I mean, obviously there's Helen Mirren and there was Lucy Liu, I guess. But like in the beginning, like there's a museum full of people that just gets turned to stone.
Oh yeah.
And then like so many extras get killed in this movie, like including a cameo from David F. Sandberg. I did notice that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like he gets stabbed in the chest and he gets thrown by like this creature.
Okay.
He just goes, ah! Um, but I feel bad for not liking this because I really like David F. Sandberg and everything. Like I think he's a really interesting director and filmmaker. And I like hearing his POV on the industry and test screenings, bring it back to that. The videos he's made online about that, I found all very interesting. Like, I like him a lot as a personality as well as a filmmaker. In terms of the filmmaking aspects of it, it does look really good, and their sets and the CGI is always pretty much very good. I can't remember what the budget for this was, but I remember seeing it and thinking, well, that's kind of low for a movie like this, and it doesn't seem that way on screen. And I think because you have a filmmaker who's used to working with lower budgets and making a lot of his stuff at home and things like that, like then you could do more with less budget-wise. Like I don't see this movie making a lot of money, and it's gotten a very average critical reception, but I do hope that he gets another chance filmmaking-wise to do something else with DC because, I mean, if he doesn't get anything else to do with DC, then he should be able to make what he wants is what I'm trying to say. But
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I would hate for this film to be the thing that makes them sever their relationship with him, because I don't think he's quite deserving of that. Like, though I didn't like this movie very much, the filmmaking aspect of it really isn't the reason why.
Yeah.
So I guess getting the spoilers now, we do have another body count to add, and that is Billy Batson dies in this movie. And they bury him too.
Can I tell you what was like going through my head while I was watching that scene?
Hey.
So Billy dies, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, that kind of gave his character something to do, but I was really, really worried just because of the jokey nature of the movie that, like, kind of what Freddie said is that, like, he was just going to wake up and be like, you know, it's like, oh, hey, I'm all good, guys, and, like, all that. It was going to be, like, a cheap cop-out joke after he just died. And I was like, oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that. And then they bury him, and I'm like, oh, wow, they didn't do that.
Yeah.
I was like, that's actually kind of interesting. And then fucking Wonder Woman shows up.
It's amazing, like,
oh my god, I would have taken the joke.
It's just amazing, like you know, hearing the Wonder Woman theme again, like that theme has done wonders to me in the past however many years since Batman v Superman. Like, when it first came out in 2016, I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
But over the years, I've kind of grown to like it ironically, I guess. And then like I've heard it live as well. So like I think I've slowly forced myself into liking it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then of course, like, I mean, for one, this cameo was actually spoiled for me in a TV spot of all things.
Yeah, I was about to say, it was like, this isn't really a spoiler. This is kind of out there now.
Yeah, but I've kind of gotten like a complete 180 on Gal Gadot in general, and I think I know the reason why. I think when Wonder Woman isn't carrying a sword, I think she's great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here she does the exact opposite, right? She brings someone back to life. She's not killing anyone in this.
Yeah. You can say that about a lot of DC characters when they're not just, you know, recklessly killing people intentionally.
Yeah,
you know,
like when she's just standing there, she's Wonder Woman, all right. Like
mm-hmm.
I did like the making fun of like you know, the Superman cameo in the first film of, like, you know, cutting off his head at the top of the frame. Like I did find that funny how Billy has a dream that he's on a date with Wonder Woman, and we never see her face until the wizard visits him in the dream, and he's on the body of Gal Gadot. Like that was funny. And when she first shows up and her theme is blaring, it starts on her body and it tilts up to her head. Like I thought that was funny, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, why would you put that in a TV spot? That's so lame to spoil that.
It's because maybe they're more self-aware than you think. They're like, no one's going to see this. No one's going to like this. No, we'll just advertise Wonder Woman already.
Yeah. I will say, because I kind of dogged on the comedy a little bit, but a joke I did laugh out loud for was when he reads Solomon as Solo Man. Like, that got a laugh out of me. Like, and nothing against Zachary Levi as an actor, but I didn't love him in this. And look, it's got nothing to do with real life, blah, 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 blah. Like, he was a little much, I thought.
Mm-hmm. I get that, yeah.
Like, Billy is a brat in the first one. That's kind of why his mother leaves him. but he's a bit of a brat, so I didn't mind him playing it that way in the first one. Like, this one, it's like Levi plays Shazam even younger, I thought.
Yeah.
Like the mid-credit scene that we get, like which was like super eye-rolly, but we're like when he's going like as he's shooting like glass bottles with his finger guns and doing like oh, is Billy Batson some handsome, super handsome guy or something like that? Like that felt like what should have come at the end of the first film. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was like this is a mid-credit scene that was like, was this a mid-credit scene that was meant for the first film? Like, it just didn't fit at all. It's like, the couple times we see Billy in this film, like, he seems a lot more mature and is trying to keep the team together. Like, he's the one that has to tell Freddy, like, no, we don't go out on our own and do this. Like, we do this as a team. Like, then when he's Shazam, he's just a moron and a goof.
Yeah, I get that. Especially like after the first movie, you kind of like need your characters to grow somewhere, and not saying like get rid of the quippy nature entirely, because that's like the big charm of these movies, is that they are silly and uh, they do own it in this movie a lot, but you need a little bit of that, and not just at the end when like he accepts his fate and he does die until he doesn't. But um, yeah, I understand that.
Mm. I guess we could talk about the after credits scenes. But I guess to sum up, they basically have the attitude like, well, these are going nowhere. Like,
Can I tell you about my theater experience for this? Because
oh, please
this
do.
was one of like the biggest eye-rolling moments I've ever had in my life, and it's not the scenes themselves.
Mm.
Um, and we remember I remember like seeing Justice League in theaters, and we had like a bunch of like DC mouth breathers all over the place, and it was just they're really weird. And like not saying DC fans are weird, but like tone it down in the movies at least.
I think
So
specifically the Snyder cult are the
yeah,
weirdos.
yeah. And so this is like right after the first post-credit scene. And so like then the credits like start rolling back up again. And I was gonna stay. But then this mouth breather in front of me was just like, hey, there's another scene with whatever character's name from the first one. And I was like, thanks, I guess. Like, um, okay. I don't know.
Good
It
for
was
you.
very eye rolling.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, in the mid-credits scene, you have the Peacemaker characters. One of them being James Gunn's wife. Recruit Shazam into the Justice Society, not the Justice League, which I guess they're just trying to attempt to tie this into Black Adam some more. uh, but that's probably not going to go anywhere at this point.
No, I think he was originally supposed to be in this. Like he was supposed to show up as a
Mm,
cameo at the end or something. I don't know, but that
yeah.
was such a hit.
But then the second scene is we get Mark Strong back now with a full beard. It's like a continuation of the credit scene from the first Shazam movie where he meets the caterpillar guy. Mr. Mind is the character's name. Where it's just kind of I guess the joke of it is like, well, I've been waiting here for 2 years. Like, what are you trying to do? You're being very vague. He's like, well, I have one more thing to do. You're gonna have to wait some more. And then he just goes away, and it ends with them going, God damn it! I mean, if this never gets paid off, it just adds to the joke.
Yeah. It's a win-win kind of joke.
Mm-hmm. But in this movie, we get references to Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel Jr. At this point, whenever I hear Captain Marvel Jr., I hear it in a particular kind of type of voice. I couldn't help but think that Elvis would have been really happy to hear one of his songs at the end of a Shazam movie.
Yeah.
Um, the unfortunate thing is that it has no reason to play at the end of the movie. It's just a little less conversation plays over the credits, and this didn't appear anywhere else in the movie. It's just a super random famous song that's playing. I mean, I understand why. Like, the Elvis movie was released, and everyone knows that he liked Captain Marvel Jr. Like,
Mhm.
maybe that's what Freddie should have listened to instead of the Beastie Boys song, like the Star Trek song. Like, if he was listening to like a little less conversation, it would have made a little more sense to play over the credits. I don't know. I thought that was funny. Like, I understood why, but normally when you play a song in the credits, it has a connection to the movie.
Yeah.
Do you think Elvis would have liked this movie? That's the important question.
Um, I don't know. Probably would have liked the first one more like everyone else, but
Adam Brody gets to show up in the movie 4 times. Early in the film, he's flying around at the bridge, like they fail to keep standing up, and he's on his own mission later, like at night, at nighttime. Then he's there trying to impress Rachel Zegler, and then he gets his powers back, and I think that's the last time we see him. But I loved Adam Brody in this movie.
he
I
was
want a solo
great.
movie
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah.
And I'll never not enjoy like jokes of like uh, Shazam fails to save the day, and then you just have a picture of smiling Shazam in the newspaper. It's just so funny.
Hmm.
And maybe you're not meant to think about this, but Mary Marvel is the same actress in her young form and adult form. Like, was she not afraid at all? There are faces now out there as a superhero. Like, I kind of was like, maybe they should have kept the hoods from the first film. Like, they got rid of them for whatever reason in this. Like, later in the film, they're all there in their superhero forms talking to their adopted parents, and Shazam says, like, that's Mary, but you can figure that out because it's just her face.
Yeah.
So yeah, any final words on Shazam 2?
Nothing much really. It's you guys can go see it and you'll probably hate it. I kind of love it, but like I understand the complaints. I'm not like saying this movie's great or anything. I just I loved like how much, really just how alive it felt and how much they just owned the ridiculousness, whereas Ant-Man was just crap. So yeah.
But yeah, this is the first of 4 DC movies that we're getting this year. Next up is going to be The Flash, which is apparently being purported as being the best superhero movie of all time, according to Tom Cruise and James Gunn. And like,
Yeah.
I've seen this trailer on the big screen, and it's like, how? Like, how is it that everyone that sees this movie now is like saying it's the best movie ever made? Like, what happens when you see this movie?
It's very interesting.
Well, maybe the after credits scene for that movie is Ezra Miller appears on the screen and says, if you tell people you don't like this movie, I will come to your house and choke you.
Oh God.
Maybe that's it.
There'll be 2 Ezra
Like a
Millers.
jump scare.
That.
Well, Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me over on Instagram and Letterboxd.
Nice. Same here. Yeah, thanks for listening. And Angela Bassett should have won. Goodbye!